tremendous honour to be here at the RMP AGM, and I'd like to thank, first of all, Jeff Redmond, Phil McGarry, John Mulligan, union men who were there before politicians, before the press, before campaigners were there, supporting us on the road, being vilified. I'd also like to thank Bob. I heard his speech this morning, a man of courage and leadership. And I'd like to start off by saying, a man gets dragged from his bed and he's taken to an army military barracks where he's held incommunicado for 15 hours. The cell door opens, he's asked his name, he gives his name, he gets his nose broken. He's then dragged into an interrogation room where he's beaten by 4 policemen. He's taken back to the cell and he's left there, and the clothes that he was brought into the police station are saturated in blood. They're stripped off him and he's given a clean set of clothes. He's put on a plane, he's taken to a foreign country and he's tortured. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Guantanamo Bay. This is 1974. This happened to me in Belfast. I was arrested on the 30th of November in my own home. I was taken to Springfield Road Police Station where I was held incommunicado. I was beaten by 2 special branch men whose names were Cunningham and McCall. They beat me in the cell, they broke my nose. They took me up the interrogation room where there was 2 Surrey CID men there, Jeremy and Grundy, who alleged that I had bombed Guildford. I had never been to Guildford in my life. I had more trouble with the IRA than what most people had. I like to have a drink. I thought I was Rod Stewart, and I like to go out dancing. That was deemed unacceptable behaviour by the IRA, Republican movement, call it what you will. I was deemed an antisocial delinquent because I like to have a drink. So to find myself in this situation of being accused of one of the most dreadful, murderous acts that ever happened in Britain, you can imagine the shock. I was subsequently beaten and I signed a confession to something I didn't do. And I signed it probably in the knowledge that I believed that England had the first judicial system in the world, that it had the first police in the world. And maybe it was me watching Ron Pull of the Bailey as a kid, and no hiding place, and Z cars that gave me that belief. But fundamentally I've been coming to England since I was a child because my mother's brothers were economic immigrants. After the war there was no work, they came, they joined unions, they worked on buildings. It was like coming to Disneyland, getting away from Belfast, the sectarianism, the bitterness. So I still had faith that when I appeared at the Old Bailey on the 16th of September, a Tuesday, 1975, that justice would be done, that the people would see that the wrong people had been arrested and charged. That wasn't to be the case. The succession of policemen came in and lied. The policemen who lied were Peter Imbert, who was the Special Branch Liaison Officer, who went on to become head of the Metropolitan Police, who one of the first acts of New Labour was denying. That was one of the first acts of New Labour, was denying Peter Imbert, someone they knew was complicit in torturing and sending innocent people to prison. And his evidence helped convict my father who died in prison. Gareth Pearce, my solicitor, was also offered an honour by the new Blair government. But when she heard that she was going to have to be in the same room as a perjurer, a liar, a torturer, she turned the honour down. That is what the backbone of this country is about. This is what you people are about. Having courage and strength to stand up for your convictions. Don't give up the things that people give their lives for. Don't give up the rights that people have struggled and fought for. Don't let governments nick your rights by stealth. But I ended up going to prison for 15 years. And in the course of that 15 years, I spent 5 years in solitary confinement. I was moved 22 times. The first visit that me and my father were to have together was on the 12th of August, 1977. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, after being apart for 2 years, that finally moved my father to Wakefield Prison, so as we could have what you call the accumulated visits with my mother and my sisters. And when they arrived on the 11th of August 1977, the next morning they moved me at 6 o'clock in the morning from Wakefield Prison to Canterbury. And the reason it sticks in my mind is that on the way down the motorway I was passing Manchester United and Liverpool fans who were meeting the Charity Shield. The 12th of August 1977 was a Saturday. And what I witnessed and what I seen in prison should appall each and every one of us. Because in the mother of democracy, we retain the Official Secrets Act around our prisons. These are the things that we used to put to the Russians in the 60s, the gulags and the stalags out in Siberia. What were they doing to the likes of Solzhenitsyn and all the rest? But what are they doing to people from your own country in these prisons? Why do we need to have such a powerful act surrounding prisons? It doesn't compromise national security, but what it does, it protects the people who are inflicting mental torture, mental anguish and suffering, and sometimes driving young people, young vulnerable people, to suicide. There's just been a case revealed about Ashford Prison where we had a racist a young Pakistani be put in the same cell as a known racist, and him being beaten to death. And it's just because he's another number that there isn't inquiries, that there isn't demonstrations. When I was in Parkhurst, black people weren't allowed to work in the kitchen. What's that all about? 30 years since Blair Feats died, defending people's rights in Southern. 30 years since Blair Feats died. Ian Tomlinson died this year at a demonstration. Has anything really changed? Yous are the people who change things. Yous are the people who inspire things. Yous are the future of everything. Yous are the ones who are there to protect our rights, to protect people's jobs, to help people who, when they're traumatized. We want to start a trauma clinic. MOJO wants to start a trauma clinic for all the people who have suffered miscarriages of justice. In the 20 years since I've been released, there's been 300 major miscarriages of justice, and by that I mean murder convictions overturned, manslaughter convictions overturned. But if you take it overall, people who did 4 years and 3 years and 2 years, who are no less worthy of the term miscarriages of justice and victims of injustice, there's been nearly 3,000 to 4,000 people. That's a tremendous amount of people that the courts are wrongly convicting, that wrongful evidence is being used to convict them. Look at the Shrewsbury too. They're going to get their conviction overturned. Did the Prevention of Terrorism Act that was invoked on the 20th of November 1974 have something to do with their arrest, their incarceration? I think it did. But we need to get a trauma clinic set up. And we need to have people accountable for what they do. If you make a mistake at work or you're bad at your job, then you pay the price for it. The policemen go into court and perjure themselves. The forensic scientists go in and have doctored evidence. They shouldn't be allowed to retire on the grounds of health. They should have their pensions taken off them. They should be charged with perverting the course of justice, and they should be tried the same way any human being would be tried for illegal tampering with evidence. So I would just like to say, I'm so grateful to be here. I find union meetings so inspiring. I find the honesty refreshing, and thank you very, very much.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, I'd like just to endorse what Jerry said. I deem it an honour, a privilege and a pleasure to be here today amongst you. As Jerry said, what happened to us has happened to people all over the country. In 1974, I was a happy-go-lucky guy. I was married, I had 6 children. My life was complete. I had 5 daughters and I just had a son. That's all that my wife wanted. If my son had come earlier, there wouldn't have been 6 of them, but that's the way things turn out. And I say, let me take this on. I'm not a good guy. Unlike Jerry, I have a previous conviction. In fact, I have 17 previous convictions, mainly for violence, gang warfare, all the bullshit growing up. I come out of a little Catholic enclave in north of Belfast called the Ardoyne, more commonly known over the last 40 years as Murder Mile, because that's all it is, a mile square. But I left school in 1959, and a few months later I went to England and went to Birmingham. And of course, Birmingham was a very racist city. And in them days when I went, used to have big signs outside the factory walls, vacancies, apply within. And underneath it they had another sign, no paddies and no walks need apply. They had the same thing in the lodging houses. No paddies, no walks and no dogs. Paddy was top on this, the dog was third. But that's the way things were, and of course I was always a rebel. I had 4 young brothers and a sister that I had to look after. And of course I grew up with violence in Birmingham. But by the time the Birmingham pub bombings happened, my father done 30 years in the British Army. My father joined the British Army in 1929 when he was 10.5 years old because he was going to end up in a home. So he got out of that by joining the British Army, becoming a drummer boy. And he went to India with the Raj. When he came back after the war, my father took over Henry Place in Belfast, which is the headquarters of the British Army. For the next 15 years, my father was the unarmed combat weapons instructor. My father was also the Master Sergeant at Arms for the Queen's Guard of Honour for a coronation. When my father left the British Army in 1959, I left school. My older brother joined his regiment, the 18th Field Regiment, Royal Artillery. And even when I was in prison, my brother was in the British Army. He worked for Special Forces NATO, Special Forces Fort Bragg, Special Forces Canada, and he also worked with the SAS at home. I have another young brother served 12 years in the 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment, and I have another young brother that was in the Green Jackets. The only thing I ever joined was my hands. I could never take orders from anyone. But as I say, when the Birmingham pub bombings happened, I walked into a police station of my own free will to be eliminated from their inquiries. And the police come. There's 2 police forces involved with me, the Morecambe and Heysham Police Force. And in respect of that police force, I make no allegations whatsoever of any brutality. In fact, they couldn't have handled the Queen or any member of her family any better than they handled me. They were absolutely brilliant. I do have regrets. One of the regrets is I didn't have one of them video recorders with me. Because I ain't no respect of the police. I know all the cops. I've been in their hands, been beaten up in the past, and I must admit, I deserved it because I was one cocky, arrogant little bastard. And I deserved everything I got. But on this occasion, I went into the police station and then Birmingham Police. My introduction to the Birmingham Police, I'm sitting reading the book which the cops had given me to read. Alistair MacLean book, Bear Island. I'd read it before. I've been an avid reader since I was a kid. And all of a sudden I seen a big shadow leaning over me, and I looked up. And this guy standing there about 6'4", 6'5", about 17 stone, silver hair, and he's rubbing his hands, and he went to me, "Soon, you little bastard, you dirty little murder-naries, fuck pig," and he spat in my face. That was my introduction to the West Midlands Serious Crime Squad. I had already made a detailed statement to the Morecambe and Lancashire Police that had been cleared by Special Branch, and they told the Morecambe Police to let me go. But of course the Birmingham Police came in and they told us right from the very beginning. Sergeant Bennett, as he was then, said to me, "Listen, Hill, we know, quote, we know you didn't do the bombings. We don't give a fuck who done the bombings. We've got you. It keeps the public off our gaffers' back and our gaffers off ours." And he told me, "We didn't pick you or select you. You've been picked by people at the highest level in government. And our orders are that we are to get confessions and convictions, and that we are to use any means that we have to obtain them. Now, you can have it the easy way, sign the statement forms and we'll fill them in, or you can help us. That's the easy way. If you don't want it that way, you're going to have it the hard way." And he went like that with his finger, he went round the fucking walls. "What do you want?"